September 14, 2025, 2:47 in the morning, a research facility in the high-altitude desert of Qinghai Province, China. The air outside is -12 degrees, the sky is perfectly clear, and inside a dimly lit control room, a 34-year-old planetary scientist named Dr. Wei Jianming is sitting completely alone, staring at something on his screen that has just stopped making sense. He runs the program again, same result. He runs it a third time, hands moving faster now, same result. At 2:53 a.m., he picks up his phone and calls his director, not his supervisor, the director. At that hour, that call means one thing: this cannot wait until morning. What Dr. Wei had just found, buried 150 kilometers beneath the Great Red Spot, was an object that, according to every model, every equation, and every theory in planetary science, should not exist. And for the next 8 months, the world would not be allowed to know. Let's talk about what we thought we knew. The Great Red Spot. You've seen it, that massive rust-colored storm on Jupiter's surface, wide enough to swallow 3 Earths whole. Winds screaming at 430 miles per hour, spinning continuously since the first time a human pointed a telescope at Jupiter in the 1660s. For 350 years, the scientific explanation was simple. It's a storm, an enormous, self-sustaining atmospheric vortex, extreme but understood, explained, filed away. Here's what nobody could fully explain. Everything else in Jupiter's atmosphere moves. Storms appear and vanish within years. Massive systems merge and dissolve. The entire planet is in constant, violent motion. The Great Red Spot has not shifted its position in 350 years. A storm doesn't anchor itself to one spot for 3.5 centuries unless something is holding it there. Dr. Wei's sensors just found what that something is. Using a thermal reconstruction technique that digitally strips away Jupiter's upper cloud layers, like peeling back the skin of an onion to see what's inside, the Chinese array detected a heat signature at 150 kilometers depth directly beneath the Great Red Spot. Not a gas process, not an atmospheric anomaly, a concentrated, defined, stationary heat source, pulsing rhythmically like a heartbeat, while 430-mile-per-hour winds raged around it, while the storm above it spun as it has for centuries. This thing was not moving, not by a single measurable degree. The leading theory? 4.5 billion years ago, when our solar system was still a violent, chaotic mess of half-formed worlds colliding and destroying each other, Jupiter swallowed one, a planetary embryo, a rocky, iron-dense body perhaps 10 times the mass of Earth, captured by Jupiter's gravity before it could finish becoming a planet. Most objects like that would dissolve, break apart, get absorbed, but something massive enough, something with the density of a planetary core, doesn't dissolve. It compresses, it heats, and it sinks to the exact depth where the surrounding atmospheric pressure matches its own density and stops. Neutral buoyancy, perfectly suspended, sitting in total darkness inside Jupiter, radiating heat upward and forcing the atmosphere rushing around it at 430 miles per hour into a permanent vortex that the human race has been staring at for 350 years and calling a storm. The Great Red Spot isn't weather, it's a grave marker. Now here's where the story turns. Within 72 hours of Dr. Wei's confirmation, the data was classified, not by the scientists. Above them, the Chinese National Space Administration designated the findings as carrying national strategic value, a classification tier reserved for discoveries that confer competitive advantage in the global space race. The researchers were told publication was restricted pending review. No review timeline was ever given. For 8 months, every space agency on Earth operated on a 350-year-old assumption that was now known to be wrong, while China quietly shared the data with select partner nations tied to its Belt and Road space agreements. NASA's Europa Clipper was already flying toward Jupiter. Had mission planners known about the anomaly, they could have adjusted the approach to capture corroborating thermal data. That window required months of advanced planning. 8 months of silence destroyed it permanently. The data surfaced in early 2026, not through a press release, through a leak, a single file, a chain of contacts no one has fully mapped, and suddenly planetary scientists across Europe and North America were staring at classified Chinese observation data and realizing the most significant discovery in modern space science had been sitting in a vault while their missions flew past Jupiter blind. The Great Red Spot is shrinking. Every year, the storm contracts a little further, the outer layers thinning, the visible boundary pulling inward. Scientists believe it could vanish entirely within decades. When it does, whatever is beneath it will be exposed directly, clearly, with nothing left to hide the thermal signal that has been radiating upward for 4.5 billion years. The universe is opening a window. The only question is, who will be pointing the right instruments at Jupiter when it does, and whether the rest of us will be told what they find. Something has been sitting in the dark inside the largest planet in our solar system before the Earth existed, waiting, and the first civilization to find evidence of it decided to count what it was worth before telling anyone. That's not a space story. That's a warning. Subscribe, turn on notifications, because the next file involves a signal detected at the edge of our solar system, accelerating for 3 years with no confirmed natural origin. That one is still classified for now.
There is a place on the moon that no human has ever seen with their own eyes. Not one astronaut, not one probe, not one camera for the entire history of human spaceflight. The far side of the moon. Always facing away, always hidden, always silent. For decades, we told ourselves there was nothing there worth finding. Then, China went anyway, and what their rover found, nobody had an explanation for. Let's go back to 1972. NASA's Apollo 17 touches down on the lunar surface. Astronauts collect samples, plant a flag, take photos, and then they leave, and humanity never went back. For 50 years, the moon sat there, silent, overlooked, dismissed. Scientists called it a dead world. No atmosphere, no water, no surprises, just a giant rock drifting in our orbit. But here is what nobody asked out loud. If the moon is so boring, why did we stop going? The official answer was budget cuts, politics, priorities. But the far side, that part of the moon permanently turned away from Earth, was never even attempted. You want to know why? Because landing there was considered nearly impossible. The moon itself blocks every radio signal. You cannot communicate with a spacecraft on the far side. You are completely cut off. For 50 years, that was reason enough to stay away. China decided it wasn't. January 3rd, 2019, while most of the world was sleeping off New Year's celebrations, a Chinese spacecraft called Chang'e 4 was making history 238,000 miles above our heads. It fired its engines, it began its descent, and it landed softly, precisely, in a place called the Von Karman crater on the far side of the moon for the first time in human history. To solve the communication problem, China had launched a relay satellite months earlier, parked at a gravitational balance point where it could see both the far side and Earth simultaneously, a bridge between two worlds. The lander touched down, systems came online, and then a small 6-wheeled rover named U-22 Jade Rabbit rolled down onto the surface. Nobody knew what it was about to find. At first, everything looked normal. Dust, rock, craters, the same gray landscape humans had seen on the near side for decades. But then, U-22 stopped. Its cameras had picked up something unusual inside a small nearby crater, something that didn't look like the surrounding terrain at all. It was shiny, glossy, almost wet-looking, on a world with no water, no atmosphere, no weather of any kind. The Chinese science team stared at their monitors in silence. They described it in their mission logs as gel-like. The internet exploded overnight. Was it ice? An alien material? Could the moon actually be hiding something living beneath its surface? The scientists paused all other rover operations and spent weeks analyzing every reading, every pixel, every possible explanation. Eventually, they had an answer. Impact melt breccia. A meteorite had struck that exact spot with enough force to melt the surrounding rock into liquid, which then rapidly solidified in the vacuum of space, leaving behind a glassy fused surface that looked completely alien against the gray dust. Mystery solved, right? Not even close, because what was sitting underneath the entire region was far stranger than any gel. While U-22 crawled across the surface, scientists back on Earth were quietly studying gravity data from the region and they found something that stopped them cold. Buried deep beneath the South Pole Aitken Basin, the oldest and deepest impact crater in the entire solar system, was a mass so dense and so impossibly heavy that it was actively pulling the moon's crust downward from below. We are not talking about a large rock. The estimated mass of this buried anomaly was 2.18 quintillion kilograms, something extraordinarily dense, sitting deep in the moon's mantle with no immediate explanation. One theory says it is the metallic core of an ancient asteroid that struck the moon billions of years ago and slowly sank into the lunar interior. But there is a second theory, a darker one. You've heard of the giant impact hypothesis, the idea that 4.5 billion years ago, early Earth was struck by a planet-sized object called Theia. That collision was so catastrophically violent that it blasted enormous chunks of both planets into orbit. Those chunks clumped together under gravity, cooled, and solidified into the moon, which means part of what's buried inside the moon right now, that 2.18 quintillion kilogram anomaly pulling silently at the crust from below, is part of the core of a dead planet, a planet completely destroyed before complex life ever appeared on Earth, a planet that no longer exists anywhere in our solar system, except possibly right there, locked inside the moon, waiting in silence for 4.5 billion years. But the buried mass wasn't even the strangest moment of the mission. Months later, U-22's camera captured something on the horizon. During a routine drive, an object, cube-shaped, just sitting there against the lunar skyline, perfectly geometric in a landscape of random rubble and ancient craters. The mission team nicknamed it the Mystery Hut. Photos spread online within hours, and the reaction was overwhelming. An artificial structure? A crashed spacecraft? Something deliberately built on the one side of the moon that no human had ever directly looked at? The rover was months away from reaching it, so the entire world waited while a small solar-powered robot crept slowly across the ancient surface towards something that millions of people had already decided was proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. When U-22 finally got close enough, the image it sent back showed a rock, an irregular boulder sitting in a shallow depression thrown there by an ancient impact event. The internet moved on within hours, but the scientists quietly noted something more interesting than the rock itself. The far side geology was visibly, measurably, fundamentally different from anything studied on the near side. The crust was thicker, the surface was older, and the more data U-22 sent back, the clearer it became that the far side was not just the moon seen from a different angle. It was a completely different world. Here's what most people miss entirely about why this mission matters beyond rocks and rovers and viral mystery objects. The far side of the moon is the quietest place humanity has ever found. The Earth generates an enormous and constantly growing wall of radio frequency noise, Wi-Fi, satellites, cell towers, broadcasts, radar, electromagnetic pollution spreading outward through space in every direction. Radio telescopes on Earth fight against this interference constantly, but on the far side of the moon, the entire mass of the moon sits between you and Earth like a perfect shield. The silence is absolute. Scientists have known for decades that a radio telescope array built on the far side of the moon could observe the universe at frequencies completely blocked by Earth's atmosphere and completely drowned out by human-generated noise from any location near Earth. In those frequencies, at those sensitivities, we could potentially detect signals from the cosmic dark ages, the period before the first stars ever ignited, a chapter of the universe's story we currently know nothing about. And beneath the surface, ancient lava tubes stretch for kilometers, natural tunnels wide enough to fit city blocks inside, with rock ceilings thick enough to block the deadly radiation that bombards the unprotected lunar surface. Ready-made shelters, already built, already waiting. U-22 is still out there right now, still rolling, still transmitting, still finding things that quietly rewrite what we thought we knew. A small, six-wheeled machine, completely alone, on the side of the moon that faces the rest of the universe, rather than us. They told us there was nothing there. They told us the moon was dead. They told us the story ended in 19
1972, they were wrong about all of it. The moon was never dead. It was never empty. It was just waiting for someone to look at the side nobody had looked at yet. And what was found there, the ancient geology, the buried mass that may be the core of a destroyed planet, the silence that could let us hear the first sounds the universe ever made, all of it was there the whole time, right above our heads. The question now is not what else is hiding on the moon. The real question is what else right now is sitting in plain sight somewhere in this solar system, waiting for someone to finally decide it's worth going to find out.